You need to paint your house. I started to write this up for another forum, but it made me think of you guys. This happened back in the late 70s to early 80s when I was a kid. Probably about 12 years old. On PC. So any typos and grammatical errors are completely on me. Fire away. My parents had a few rental properties. One was a 3-story Victorian divided into apartments. 2 of the neighbors didn't like that it was a rental. One was often referred to as mayor because he spent most of his time going around the neighborhood, telling people how to do everything from mowing their lawn to pruning shrubs. Whatever he saw that he didn't like. I had a few friends on the local cemetery maintenance crew. They had stories about him. They gave him the title of mayor. He would come up there regularly to tell them what they were doing wrong and what they should do instead. The other neighbor was a childhood friend of his, and never had any complaints of his own, but always backed up anything his friend said in any complaints. The neighbor didn't like that it was a rental, so he complained constantly, in addition to phone calls and personal confrontations. Nothing terrible, just going up to the residents and us when we were there to make his feelings known. He went to borough council meetings to complain, and submitted complaints to enforcement for anything they could find. We once got fined because the address numbers painted on the trash cans were 1 inch. 2.5 centimeters. Too short. Seriously. Cost my dad $15. He started to complain about the house needing paint. At first with no luck. It wasn't that bad. Code officer said it was okay. But eventually he prevailed, and we got the order to paint the place. We didn't have a lot of money, so my folks went to the local paint place and purchased all of the stuff they wanted to get rid of. Returns. Stuff not mixed right. Whatever they could get, and even had a few painters donate their leftovers. I spent hours in the sun hand mixing the paint that was poured into a huge trash can. And once it was mixed, it was poured back into the cans ready to paint the house. It turned out to be a bright pink. We started to paint the place. The color was not well received. Not at all. The neighbor and his friend went to borough council meetings to get it stopped. They complained to the code compliance people. The answer? There is nothing in the code that states what color a house has to be painted. Only that it must be reasonably maintained. Or some similar words. They also said that you asked for the house to be painted. You got what you asked for. He lived next to that place for many years after he got what he asked for. Was a Victorian house. Some of houses of that era had bright and wild color schemes. You were just being true to the spirit of the house. Check the Painted Ladies of San Francisco. My friend once painted the render on his shop front a rather garish color as revenge against the local planning authorities. 20 years later they wanted to cover it in brick veneers, but were told to keep it the same color as it was now a known local landmark. They waited a while, and then fitted the brick veneers. Nothing else was said. This is the same authority that would not let him fit a roller shutter on his garage as it was not in keeping with the area. There were 3 other buildings with roller shutters within 75 meters of his house. But because they were local government buildings, it did not count. He had to get a special door that did not protrude over the pavement when it was opening, closing, at extra expense. When that one finally failed after 10 years, it got replaced with a roller shutter. Guess he painted themselves into a corner. I find it difficult to believe mixing a bunch of random colors resulted in bright pink. More likely, black or a dark gray or maybe even a brown. But pink? My across-the-street neighbors painted their White House green. I loved it. Made sure to tell them I loved it. Years later it is still a calming shade of green with white trim. Well, that's a coat of a different color. on PC. So any typos and grammatical errors are completely on me. Fire away. 1 was a 3, 1 was a 3. Into. Complain. No need for a comma here. He started to complain, he started complaining. Code officer. The code officer. Into. Into painted, you painted, and you for. He. CSI. Paint and Prejudice. And this was before the Barbie movie? That was hilarious. The complaining neighbor got a pink house for all his troubles.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Errorcast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.